Hey everybody, welcome into Folklore and Flourish. You're here today with Jane on May 12th. Today we are at the womb. So we are dealing with the fertile earth and the month of creation and fertility. And today's center is all about the womb. So I know Mother's Day was May 10th, so we kind of pushed it off 2 more days because we did the moon for Mother's Day. The moon tends to be tied with the feminine power. And then today we're doing the womb. And the theme is life bearing. So in this month of fertility and creation, today is kind of the place, right? So the womb where that takes place. And our lesson is creation is sacred labor. We are going to look at the womb through the Egyptian, Aztec, Norse, and Hawaiian interpretation of it today. Both the womb as a woman carrying life as well as the earth carrying life. And the question that you're going to think about today and that we're all going to think about is, what am I gestating? So what am I gestating? And then today you're going to place your hand on your belly or your heart and remain still for several breaths. We're just going to simple stillness, awareness moment. We're going to take a minute, put our hand on our heart, on our belly, whatever it may be. Breathe in a few seconds. You can do, or breathe in several breaths. You can do it on both, one at a time, and then both together if you'd like. So we're going to honor the slow and unseen work that is happening within our body today, as well as all the work that's happening without. But really focus today on what it is within ourselves that is growing, that is healing, that is thinking, all of these things today. But really think back to the womb and the theme of the life bearer today. So with that, I'm going to give you these 4 stories, and I will see you tomorrow on May 13th, where we look at the herbs. But enjoy the womb today. And remember, what am I gestating? See ya. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1, Taweret, the guardian of birth and the threshold of life. In the fertile lands along the Nile, where life rises from the meeting of water and earth, there existed a deep understanding that creation is not gentle nor simple, but a passage marked by both vulnerability and power. Life did not arrive quietly into the world, but through a threshold that required protection, strength, and endurance. It was within the sacred and dangerous space that Taweret stood as guardian, a presence unlike the distant gods of sky and sun, for she dwelled not in temples alone, but within the home, beside the bed, near the place where life entered the world. Her form was striking, not shaped in beauty as one might expect, but in power, with the body of a pregnant hippopotamus, the limbs of a lion, and the back of a crocodile. Each part of her form carried meaning, for these were creatures both feared and respected, embodying strength, protection, and the raw force of nature. In Taweret, these forces were gathered not to harm but to defend, to stand against what might threaten the fragile moment of birth. In the earliest days, it was understood that childbirth was not only a physical act, but a spiritual crossing, a movement from the unseen into the seen, where both mother and child stood at the edge between worlds. The crossing was not without risk, for unseen forces were believed to linger at such thresholds, drawn to the vulnerability of life as it emerged. Taweret was called upon to stand at this boundary, to guard the space, to ensure that what was meant to enter the world could do so safely. Amulets bearing her likeness were placed within homes, carved into objects, painted upon walls. Her image carried as a constant presence. She did not require grand offerings nor distant rituals, but was invoked through proximity, through the quiet acknowledgement that protection was needed in the most intimate moments of life. Her presence was not distant, but immediate, felt in the strength given to the mother, in the protection surrounding the child, in the unseen barrier that held harm at bay. Taweret did not act through command, nor did she alter the nature of birth itself, for creation remained a process that required effort, pain, and endurance. Instead, she ensured that this process could unfold as it was meant to, that the forces which sought to disrupt it would be kept away. She stood with her broad form at the edge of the threshold, her presence steady. The lion within her gave strength, the crocodile vigilance, and the hippopotamus an unyielding force that would not retreat. In this way, she embodied not a single aspect of protection, but the full spectrum required to guard life in the most fragile state. Those who called upon her did not seek to escape the labor of creation, but to be held within it, to be supported as they moved through it. Taweret became a symbol not of ease, but of endurance, a reminder that creation is sacred labor, that what is brought into the world requires both strength and protection. As time passed, her presence extended beyond childbirth alone, for she came to represent the protection of the home, the safeguarding of family, and the quiet strength required to sustain life beyond its beginning. She remained near, not in distant myth alone, but in the everyday, the ongoing act of living, where creation continues in forms both seen and unseen. The people understood that life is not brought forth once, but again and again, in cycles of growth, in acts of care, in the continual shaping of what exists. Taweret stood within all of this, her presence carried forward in every act of protection, in every moment where life is held and sustained. Thus, she remained not only as guardian of birth, but as keeper of the threshold, the one who stands where life emerges, ensuring that what is meant to come forth does so under watch, under care, under the strength required to bring it into being. Story 2. Toci, the midwife of the earth in the labor of becoming. In the lands where the mountains rise in jagged lines across the sky, and the earth holds within it the memory of fire and stone, there was known a presence who did not dwell in distant stillness, but within the act of becoming itself. This was Toci, the grandmother, the midwife, the one who stands beside life as it is brought forth, not in ease, but in effort. She was not separate from the earth, but of it, her being tied to the soil, to the body, to the processes that shaped existence through labor and transformation. In the earliest times, when the world was still being formed and the cycles of life had yet to be fully understood, Toci took her place not as a distant creator, but as one who guides creation through its most demanding moments. She was known among the people not only as a goddess, but as a presence that could be felt in the work of the midwife, in the one who kneels beside another, offering support as life crosses from the unseen into the seen. Toci's nature was not gentle in the way of soft things, but steady in the way of earth itself, enduring, patient, and unyielding when necessary. The people understood that birth was not separate from struggle, that to bring life into the world required strength, endurance, and the willingness to pass through pain. Toci was called upon in these moments not to remove the difficulty, but to guide it, to ensure that the process could unfold as it must. She stood beside women in labor, her presence carried in the hands of the midwife, in the words spoken to steady the breath, in the rhythm that guided the body forward. Her connection extended beyond childbirth alone, for she was also linked to the earth's own fertility, to the planting of seeds, to the harvesting of crops, to the understanding that all life emerges through effort. The soil itself was seen as a kind of womb, holding within it the potential for growth, requiring care, patience, and time before it would yield what had been placed within it. In this way, Toci was both midwife and earth, both guide and ground, present wherever life was being shaped into form. Yet within her presence, there was also a deeper truth, one that the people did not turn away from, for creation was not only the act of giving, but one that required sacrifice. The cycles of life and death were not separate, but bound together, each giving rise to the other. Toci was associated with rituals that acknowledged this reality, where offerings were made, not as acts of destruction alone, but as recognition that life itself is sustained through exchange. The people understood that what is given to the earth returns, that what is taken must be balanced, that creation requires both receiving and offering. In this way, Toci stood at the center of a cycle that could not be simplified, a presence that held both the beginning and the cost of that beginning within her domain. She was not feared as something separate, but respected as a force that revealed the full nature of life. That to bring forth is to engage with the entirety of existence, not only its gentleness, but its intensity. As the cycles continued and generations passed, Toci remained as a grandmother, the one who watches over the processes that shape life, who stands beside those who labor, whether in birth, in growth, or in the ongoing act of sustaining what has been created. Her presence was not limited to a single moment, but extended through all forms of becoming, through the work that must be done to bring something. The people understood that what is given to the earth returns, that what is taken must be balanced, that creation requires both receiving and offering. In this way, Toci stood at the center of a cycle that could not be simplified, a presence that held both the beginning and the cost of that beginning within her domain. She was not feared as something separate, but respected as a force that revealed the full nature of life. That to bring forth is to engage with the entirety of existence, not only its gentleness, but its intensity. As the cycles continued and generations passed, Toci remained as the grandmother, the one who watches over the processes that shape life, who stands beside those who labor, whether in birth, in growth, or in the ongoing act of sustaining what has been created. Her presence was not limited to a single moment, but extended through all forms of becoming, through the work that must be done to bring something from potential into reality. The people carried her understanding forward, recognizing that creation is not separate from effort, that what is brought into the world must be supported through continued care. In every seed planted, in every child born, in every act that transforms the world through labor, there remained the presence of Toci, the midwife of the earth, whose steady guidance ensured that life could continue, not in ease, but in strength, in endurance, and in the sacred labor through which all things come into being. Story 3, Frigg, the weaver of life within the quiet womb. In the northern lands where the air carries the chill of long winters and the earth rests beneath cycles of darkness and returning light, there exists a presence not always named in the moments of creation, yet deeply woven into its unfolding. This is Frigg, the All-Mother, whose domain lies not in the outward shaping of the world alone, but in the unseen spaces where life is held before it emerges. She is known as the wife of Odin, yet her power does not stand behind his, but beside it and beyond it, for she sees what is to come, though she does not always speak it. In the halls of Asgard, she sits at her loom, weaving thread that stretch beyond the knowledge of gods and mortals alike. Her hands steady, her work continuous. What she weaves is not merely cloth, but the pattern of life itself, the paths that will be walked, the connections that will form, the lives that will rise and pass. In this way, she is not only a mother, but a keeper of becoming, one who understands that life begins long before it is seen, held within a space of quiet formation. Frigg's presence is often subtle, not carried in the clash of battle or the flash of power, but in the stillness where something is being prepared. The womb, whether of a mother or of the earth itself, is a place of unseen work, where growth unfolds without witness, where life takes shape in darkness before it meets the light. Frigg stands within this space, her influence guiding what is forming, not through force but through knowing. It is said that she alone among the gods knows the fate of all beings, yet she carries this knowledge with restraint, allowing life to unfold as it must. In this, she reflects the nature of the womb itself, a place where the future is held, yet not revealed until its time. The people came to understand that not all creation is meant to be seen as it happens, that there is a sacredness in what develops quietly, in what is protected from the outside until it is ready to emerge. Frigg became a symbol of this hidden phase, the one who holds life in its earliest state, who protects the process of becoming before it is complete. Among the stories told of her, there is the tale of her son, Baldur, whose life she sought to protect above all else. Knowing that danger existed within the world, she went forth and asked all things, both living and inanimate, to swear that they would do no harm. Stone and metal, fire and water, plants and creature all gave their word, and for a time it seemed that Baldur was beyond harm. Yet in this effort to shield him, one small thing was overlooked, the mistletoe, which had not been bound by her request. From this the path of fate unfolded, and Baldur's death came to pass despite her care. This story does not diminish her power, but reveals the truth within it, that even the most careful tending cannot remove the nature of life itself, that what is brought into being must move through its own course. Frigg's role is not to control all outcomes, but to hold, to protect, to guide as far as possible. while still allowing the deeper patterns to unfold. In this, she embodies the complexity of creation, the understanding that life is both nurtured and released, both protected and allowed to move beyond protection. As the cycles of life continue, Frigg remains as the quiet presence within them, the one who holds the unseen stages of growth, who weaves the connections that bind lives together. She is present not only in the birth of children, but in the formation of ideas, in the beginning of paths, in all that develops before it becomes visible. The people who honored her understood that patience is part of creation, that what is forming cannot be rushed without disrupting its balance. They recognize that the womb, whether literal or symbolic, is a sacred space, one that requires care, protection, and time. Frigg stands as the guardian of this space, the one who ensures that what is being woven is held until it is ready. Thus, she remains not only as a figure of motherhood, but as a keeper of the unseen, the weaver of life within the quiet womb, whose presence reminds that creation begins in stillness, in hidden places, and in the patient unfolding of what is yet to come. Story 4, Haumea, the womb that births the living islands. In the islands where the ocean stretches in every direction and the land rises from fire beneath the sea, there is known a presence who is not separate from creation, but is creation itself in motion. This is Haumea, the Earth Mother, whose body is the source from which life emerges, not once but continuously, in cycles that do not end. She is not distant nor confined to a single form, for she exists in both woman and land, as both mother and origin, her being tied to the very processes that shape the islands and the life upon them. In the earliest times when the world was still forming and the land itself was new, rising from the depths through fire and pressure, Haumea brought forth life in a way that mirrored the creation of the islands itself. Just as the land emerged from beneath the oceans, so too did life emerge from her, not through separation, but through transformation, through a continuous unfolding that linked all things together. Haumea was known for her ability to give birth not only to children, but to entire lineages, to gods and to humans alike, her body serving as the passage through which life entered the world. Yet her power extended beyond birth alone, for she possessed the ability to renew herself, to return to youth after age, to continue the cycle of creation without end. This renewal was not an escape from time, but an embodiment of the deeper nature, where endings fold back into beginnings, where what has been returns into new form. In this way, Haumea reflects the land itself, where volcanic fire destroys and creates in the same movement, where what is broken down becomes a foundation for what will rise again. The people understood that life is not separate from this process, that creation is not a single event, but an ongoing act, one that requires both destruction and renewal, both release and return. Haumea stood within this cycle, her presence carried in the fertility of the land, in the growth of plants, in the continuation of life through generations. Among the stories told of her, there are those that speak of her many births, of the children she brought forth who would go in to shape the world in their own ways. Some traditions speak of her connection to Pele, the goddess of volcanoes, whose fire creates the land itself, linking Haumea's role as mother to the very formation of the islands. In this connection, the womb is not only a place of life, but a place of power, where forces are held and released, where what is contained becomes what transforms the world. Haumea's presence was not gentle in the sense of softness alone, but powerful in the sense of endurance, of the ability to hold and release, to bring forth and to renew. The people recognized that life itself required this strength, that creation is not passive but active, requiring the full engagement of body and spirit. In honoring Haumea, they honor the process of life in its entirety, not only the moment of birth, but the ongoing cycles that sustain it. As the generations continued, Haumea remained as the living womb of the world, her presence carried forward in every act of creation, in every birth, in every renewal that followed an ending. She was not confined to the past, but present in the ongoing life of the islands, in the rhythms of the ocean, in the movement of the earth beneath the surface. The people understood that to live within this world was to live within her, to be part of the cycle she embodied. The land itself became a reflection of her being, fertile and shifting, steady yet ever-changing. In every plant that grew from the soil, in every child born into the world, and in every moment where life began again, there remained her presence. The enduring force of Haumea, the womb that does not close, the source from which life continues to rise. Thus she stands as the embodiment of life bearing itself, the reminder that creation is not a single act, but a continuous unfolding, one that moves through cycles of transformation, where what is brought forth is never separate from what will come next, and where the womb remains not only a place of beginning, but a space through which life endlessly returns. Daily thread for May 12th. Life forms in the unseen before it arrives. Creation asks for strength and endurance. What is carried must be honored. The body remembers how to bring forth. Labor shapes what is becoming. Protection stands at every threshold. What is nurtured within will emerge. All beginnings pass through sacred effort.